hopefully we've done enough to convince you that, in fact, we can all draw. And not just people here. I've worked with, I'm going to give you 3 examples of other people who've learned to draw, and it actually surprised them too. And I'm going to save what I think is my favourite, most surprising example until last. The first example is I've worked a lot with children and students in schools. And actually, the little ones, they just draw fine. But when they get to about 15 or 16, most of them think they can't draw. But I've worked with them. I worked this week in a school where I was coaching them on using pictures for memory. And a girl was trying to remember what red blood cells do. And she drew this little picture of a red blood cell carrying a handbag with O2 on it to remind her that the red blood cells carry oxygen to all parts of the body. That was a great one. The other people I've worked with is many adults in all walks of life, and particularly in business, and they often will want to make presentations memorable. So again, a quick cartoon or a sketch could be really good for that. And again, most people think they can't draw, but take this example. A couple of wavy lines. Little boat. Could be a metaphor to represent we're all in this together. So that, if that was just drawn in a presentation, would really stay in the memory, wouldn't it? Yeah. But the third example is, you shouldn't have favourites really, should you? This is my favourite. Have you ever been at a party when someone asks you what you do? I get a bit sceptical when people ask me that. And this lady said to me, I said, I do a bit of training and I teach people to draw. And she said, would you come along and do some for our group? She said, I work with some people. She was a volunteer, a group of people who've suffered strokes. So I said, I'm sure I could, spare some time for that. So I said I would, and I booked a time in. Have you ever done that? And you get nearer the time and you think, what have I let myself in for here? Will I be able to do it? I thought, what could I do with them, you see? So I know, I'll do my cartoon drawing. They'll like that. But then as I got nearer the time, I got more and more apprehensive, because then I was thinking, I've worked with children, I've worked with all sorts of adults. I've never worked with a group like this. And it turns out it was all part of a charity called Talk. And this Talk charity is a wonderful charity that helps people who've suffered strokes but have a particular condition known as aphasia. You might have heard of aphasia, sometimes called dysphasia. And the key thing is, it affects their ability to communicate. So, for example, they might have trouble reading, writing, speaking, or understanding.